My name is Amelia, and I am a 32-year-old woman living in a cozy little town. I have always had big dreams, but life has a funny way of throwing obstacles in your path. For as long as I can remember, I have been creative, and I have always believed that my ideas could lead to something special. However, that belief has often been overshadowed by a sense of inadequacy. I have faced constant doubt from the people around me, especially from my husband, Jake. He is the type of man who thrives on being the center of attention, who finds humor in the failures of others, and who loves nothing more than to showcase his sense of superiority. Jake always laughed at my ambitions, dismissing my dreams of starting an online business as childish. He would make jokes, saying I should stick to things I am good at, like cooking and keeping the house spotless. I felt like a ghost in my own home, my voice drowned out by his towering presence. One day, after another long week of dismissive remarks and laughter aimed at my dreams, I decided to take a leap of faith and start my own online business selling handmade jewelry. I poured my heart into crafting unique pieces, using materials I had collected over the years. The first few weeks were tough. I faced uncertainty and self-doubt as I tried to figure out how to market myself. I spent countless nights researching marketing strategies, taking online courses, and honing my craft. Despite my husband's jabs and sarcastic comments, a flicker of excitement ignited within me. However, as I began to see some traction in my business, something shifted in Jake. Instead of supporting my efforts, he became resentful. He felt threatened by my newfound ambition. That is when the sarcasm turned into outright sabotage. He would deliberately interrupt my work, knock over my supplies, and make sure to invite friends over when I had important deadlines. Every time I managed to make a sale, he would bring me back down to earth with a dismissive laugh, telling me it was only a fluke. Each laugh felt like a slap to my face, adding fuel to the fire of my determination. I pushed through. As my business began to grow, so did my confidence. I started to imagine a new life for myself, one where I was not defined by my husband's laughter, but rather by my successes. But just when I thought I could rise above his negativity, everything crashed down. One night, I received an email from my jewelry supply company informing me that they made an error with my order, canceling my stock just as holiday season sales were about to spike. It felt like the universe was conspiring against me. I was devastated and ran into Jake's arms for comfort, but instead of support, he burst into laughter. "Guess you won't be getting rich anytime soon," he sneered. It felt like my heart shattered into a million pieces. I had given everything to my dreams, and here I was back at square one, crushed by the very person who was supposed to have my back. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I lay in bed contemplating my situation and the weight of Jake's words. But as dawn broke, a new resolve filled my mind. I would not let Jake's laughter define my fate. I decided to fight back not only for myself, but for all the dreams he had belittled. I worked harder than ever, finding new suppliers, stretching my connections, and promoting my work relentlessly on social media platforms. Slowly but surely, my efforts began to bear fruit. As I made more sales, I reinvested everything back into my business. I was relentless and focused. One day, just as I was nearing the peak of my success, I received a letter that changed everything. I could barely believe what I was reading. It was a notification that Jake had filed for divorce, claiming I had become too independent and that I had grown difficult to live with. I felt blindsided and heartbroken, but deep down, a surge of power coursed through me. I was determined to turn this pain into fuel for my fire. I kept pushing my business, and as I grew stronger, it flourished beyond my wildest dreams. I became massively successful, raking in a profit that surpassed what Jake had ever dreamed of making. And as the feelings of triumph started to set in, I found myself envisioning my revenge. I remembered all those harsh comments he made, and I decided I would turn the tables. I hastily planned an event showcasing my jewelry, inviting everyone from our neighborhood, our family, and his friends. I wanted Jake to see my success in its full glory. That night was phenomenal. The small venue was packed, and the buzz around my work was electrifying. With each compliment I received, I could practically feel Jake's presence looming, watching with a mix of disbelief and jealousy. When he arrived, I could see the shock in his eyes, but I smiled as if I had won a prize. I made sure to have a beautiful display featuring my work prominently, and I watched with glee as he tried to feign indifference. It was a moment of justice, watching him squirm as people praised my creativity and business acumen. As the night progressed, I finally approached him with a smile plastered on my face and asked him, So, what do you think? Did you enjoy the show? The look on his face was priceless. He stammered a half-hearted compliment that could not cover the bitterness that wafted from his words. I suppose you did all right for yourself, he finally uttered, unable to mask the envy. And for a moment, I felt incredibly powerful. My heart swelled with the realization that I had finally moved on from his shadow. My journey was no longer about revenge, it was about reclaiming my life. The days turned into weeks, and I found myself sinking into my new normal, filled with fulfillment and creativity. I hired a few assistants to handle the demands of my thriving online shop and started taking part in local art fairs. I had wrapped my world around the beauty of my work and the joy of being free. But the unexpected twist came late one evening when I received an odd phone call. It was Jake's voice on the other end, softer than I had ever heard it. He asked me how I was doing and if I would be willing to meet up. Curious yet cautious, I agreed to see him, knowing that I had no intentions of going back to that life. When we met, he looked vulnerable, admitting that he had made mistakes and regretted how he treated me. As we spoke, there was a part of me that could empathize with his journey, but I knew I had walked away for a reason. I told him that I appreciated his honesty, but I had moved on. We parted ways on amicable terms, but I could see the respect in his eyes. I realized that my greatest revenge was not the pain I inflicted, but the success I created for myself. As I returned to my thriving business, I understood something profound. Growth always comes after letting go. And as my days filled with creativity and joy, I realized it was my laughter now that would echo through the halls of my new life.